The moment her son asked her not to post any wedding photos, she knew the dress had done. It had divided Psalm. And if you've ever felt that subtle shift, that polite, smiling distance that creeps into a family after a perfect event, then you already understand why she ended up online at 2 in the morning typing for dangerous letter. AITA. My friends, this is Scarlet Veil. And today, I'm telling you a story that proves a wedding dress doesn't have to be white to start a quiet war. Welcome to Lying Whispers, where we unravel family drama with sharp wit, strong coffee, and just enough empathy to K. Before we dive in, subscribe, hit like, and comment early because this one, it's going to split the room. Stay until the end because what looks like vanity might actually be insecurity, and what feels like innocence might not be entirely harmless. Now grab your coffee or whatever fuels your moral analysis. She was the mother of the groom.
Organized. Involved.
The kind of woman who believes that if you communicate clearly, nothing can go wrong. Her eldest son was getting married in an outdoor daytime ceremony, English garden style, followed by an elegant tented reception in the evening. Soft florals. Muted palettes. Refined. She did what she thought was respectful. She discussed her dress choice with her son and his fiancée early on. She even spoke with the bride's mother, a British Orthodox Jewish woman, who planned to wear something modest for the ceremony, perhaps a hat, and change into a long black gown for the evening reception. Everything sounded harmonious, civil, almost suspiciously smooth. Then came the dress hunt. She went shopping with friends and her sister-in-law. Tried on dozens of options. Nothing. No spark. No magic. And my friends, if you've ever stood under fluorescent dressing room lighting questioning your entire existence, you understand that disappointment. This was her son's wedding. She wanted to feel confident, radiant, memorable, though she would never have used that word out loud. She sent photos of potential dresses to her son and future daughter-in-law. The bride responded kindly every time. You'll look beautiful in anything. Diplomatic.
Sweet.
Neutral. But she consistently mentioned that her own mother would wear something tea-length or midi for the ceremony, subtle, appropriate for daytime. And then one afternoon she found it.
The dress.
The one that made her stand taller. The one that made her smile at her reflection instead of adjusting herself. It wasn't white. It wasn't inappropriate. It wasn't flashy in a tacky way. But it had presence. She sent photos again, asking for honest feedback. The bride said it was beautiful and elegant, but asked if she might consider something a little more understated. She even sent links to alternatives. Now pause. Understated is a fascinating word. It doesn't mean no,
but it isn't exactly yes.
Her son later called and asked gently whether she'd consider something less eye-catching. She answered honestly no. This was the only dress that gave her that wow feeling. He replied okay. And in her mind, that closed the case. She even sent a photo to the bride's mother, who complimented it and said she'd choose something that complemented the colors. Everything seemed settled. Or so she thought. Wedding week arrived. The bride was stressed, understandably. Weddings are emotional pressure cookers wrapped in tulle. The mother of the groom offered to bring a steamer to help with the bride's dress. She asked, more than once, to see the gown ahead of time. She never did. She wasn't invited into the bridal suite before the ceremony. Polite smiles.
Controlled warmth.
But something felt curated. The wedding itself was stunning. Guests mingled. Champagne flowed. Compliments floated through the air. And here raced the moment that changed everything. During the reception, someone leaned over to her and whispered, "You look incredible. Almost as stunning as the bride." Almost. That word doesn't land lightly. She laughed it off. But someone else heard it. And weddings are ecosystems of overheard comments. Later, the DJ introduced her for the mother-son dance as the elegant mother of the groom. Elegant. Harmless word. But when emotions are heightened, even neutral praise can feel like spotlight theft. After the honeymoon, the shift became undeniable. Shorter messages from her son. Fewer casual interactions with her daughter-in-law. And then the request. Please don't share wedding photos. Eventually, her son explained. His wife felt that the dress had become too much of a focus during planning. That conversations repeatedly circled back to how stunning it was, that it sometimes felt like attention was being redistributed. And that's when she asked the internet, Ida, was she wrong for choosing the dress that made her feel confident? Let's analyze, my friends. She asked for opinions. She showed photos. She didn't wear white. She didn't ignore explicit objections. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Intent doesn't cancel impact. During planning, she mentioned the dress often. Excitedly. Repeatedly. I finally found it. I feel amazing in it. It's perfect. Perfect. In a season where the bride is trying to curate her own perfection. If you were the bride juggling seating charts, family politics, and expectations, would constant enthusiasm about someone else's wow moment feel supportive or competitive? Not consciously competitive, but energetically? There's a difference between wanting to look beautiful and wanting to be unforgettable. And maybe, just maybe, she wanted to be unforgettable too. Not out of malice, but out of transition. Because here's the layer no one discusses openly. When a son marries, the mother shifts position. She's no longer the central woman in his life. That transition is graceful in theory, emotional in practice. Perhaps the dress wasn't about stealing attention. Perhaps it was about holding on to visibility. Months later, the daughter-in-law finally spoke honestly. She didn't accuse. She confessed. I felt like I was competing for space. Competing. And the mother responded immediately. I wasn't competing with you. Both statements were true. That's the complexity. Perception weighs more than intention. The bride admitted something else. If the dress had been subtler, she might still have felt insecure. Because the insecurity wasn't born from fabric. It was born from adjustment, new roles, new hierarchy, shared love. The dress just illuminated what was already fragile.
So AITA? No.
But also not entirely blameless. She wasn't cruel. She wasn't manipulative. But she may have underestimated how powerful her presence can feel in someone else's once-in-a-lifetime spotlight. Confidence is beautiful, but context matters. Today, their relationship isn't perfect. It's careful, more communicative. She still shines, but she calibrates. And the bride works on not interpreting light as threat. Because here's the truth, my friends. Light doesn't diminish when shared. But insecurity can make it feel that way. Now, I want to know, if you were the mother of the groom, would you have chosen the wow dress anyway? If you were the bride, would you have felt overshadowed? And if you were the son, how would you stand between two women who both insist they did nothing wrong? Comment below, my friends. I need to know what you would have done. Like, if you enjoy a little psychological dissection with your drama, share this with someone who thinks wedding tension is always obvious. Because sometimes, it's just silk, smiles, and silence. Oh, my friends, you didn't think we were done, did you? Because the most dangerous part of the story wasn't the wedding. It was what came after the apology that never fully happened. Let's continue. For a while, things existed in that polite gray zone. Text messages were answered. Invitations were extended. Holiday dinners happened. But warmth? Measured. You know that tone people use when they're being respectful but not relaxed?
That.
She told herself she was overthinking it. Until the first anniversary. The couple hosted a small dinner. Close friends. Immediate family. She arrived in something intentionally subdued.
Navy.
Simple lines. Almost strategically invisible. And halfway through the evening, one of the bride's friends, slightly tipsy, because champagne reveals what manners conceal, said, "You look different tonight."
Softer. Softer.
She smiled. But inside, something tightened. Softer than what? Softer than confident? Softer than radiant? Softer than threatening? Because that's the undercurrent no one wanted to name. Her presence had weight. And weight, in emotionally charged spaces, can feel like pressure. Later that night, she overheard something she wasn't meant to hear. The bride telling a friend, "It's better now. She's not as intense." Not as intense. My friends, that word "sti." Intensity isn't a crime. But in family dynamics, it can become one. She drove home replaying it. Was she intense? Or was she simply strong? There's a difference. But to someone still building their own confidence, strength can feel like invasion. And here's where the story deepens. Because this wasn't the first time she'd been told she was a lot. In her career, praised for leadership. Among friends, admired for presence. In motherhood, the anchor. But now, in this new configuration of family, she was the variable. And when systems shift, the most solid pieces sometimes feel disruptive. A few months later came another turning point. Pregnancy announcement. Joyful, emotional, transformative. She was thrilled, overwhelmed in the best way. And she made one mistake. She posted about it before the couple had formally announced it to extended circles. Not maliciously, just excited. But excitement without timing can look like control. The post was quickly taken down after a quiet phone call. No yelling, just boundaries. And boundaries, my friends, are the adult version of "you hurt me." That's when she finally understood something critical. It wasn't about the dress. It wasn't about sparkle or silhouette. It was about space. Every time she stepped forward energetically, the bride felt pushed back emotionally. And neither of them knew how to articulate it without sounding dramatic. One afternoon, months into the pregnancy, they sat down, just the two of them. No husbands. No audience. And the daughter-in-law said something startlingly honest. "When you shine, I feel small. Not because you try to make me small, but because I'm still figuring out how to take up space." Silence. That kind of silence that doesn't attack, it reveals. And for the first time, she didn't defend herself. She asked, "What would feeling supported look like to you?" That question changed everything. Because now it wasn't about right or wrong. It was about coexistence. Here's what they both realized. Confidence without awareness can feel like dominance. Insecurity without communication can feel like resentment. And weddings magnify both. The bride admitted something else. Even if the dress had been understated, she might still have found something to fixate on. Because when you're afraid of being overshadowed, you start scanning for shadow. And the mother admitted something too. She didn't want to outshine anyone, but she didn't want to disappear either. And that's the tightrope so many women walk. Be radiant but not too radiant. Be confident but not overwhelming. Be present but not central. It's exhausting. Years later, their relationship is steady. Not best friends. Not rivals. Just balanced. She learned to step back intentionally in milestone moments. The bride learned to separate external brightness from internal worth. And the son? Relieved. Because being the bridge between two emotionally strong women is not a role anyone trains you for. So now we circle back. Ida?
No.
But she wasn't entirely oblivious either. She underestimated how powerful her presence could feel in someone else's unseen-a-lifetime spotlight. And the bride underestimated how much of her insecurity came from within. Two truths. No villain. Just timing, transition, and unspoken fear. Let me ask you something, my friends. Have you ever been told you were too much when you were simply being yourself? Have you ever felt overshadowed by someone who wasn't even trying? Because that's the real tension here. Not lace. Not color palettes. Not wow factor. But emotional territory. And territory is sensitive. Especially when love is involved.
So tell me.
If you were her, would you have chosen the dress again? If you were the bride, would you have spoken up sooner? Or would you have swallowed it until it turned into distance? Oh, my friends, you really want the final layer?
Good.
Because the most revealing chapter didn't happen at the wedding. It didn't happen at the anniversary dinner. It didn't even happen during the pregnancy. It happened the day she almost wore the dress again. 3 years later. A formal charity gala. Same social circle. Same photographer. Coincidentally. She stood in her closet holding it.
The dress.
Still flawless. Still powerful. Still giving that quiet cinematic wow. She hadn't worn it since the wedding. Not because she regretted it, but because it carried history. And for a moment, she hesitated. Not because of fashion. Because of memory. Would wearing it again feel like reclaiming confidence? Or reopening a silent file that had finally been archived. That's growth, by the way. When the question isn't can I, it's should I? She chose something else. Not out of fear, out of awareness. And that distinction matters. Because early on, she defended herself. Later, she reflected. Now, she calibrated. That's evolution. At the gala, something unexpected happened. The bride, now more secure, more settled in her role, complimented her. You always know how to carry yourself. Carry yourself. Not outshine. Not overwhelm. Not dominate. Carry. And that word felt like closure. Because presence doesn't have to compete.
It just has to exist.
Let's talk psychology for a second, my friends. There are women who enter rooms and bend the energy. Not loudly. Not aggressively. Just naturally. And when another woman is still learning to stand firmly in her own center, that kind of energy can feel destabilizing. Not because it's wrong, but because it's strong. And strength without context can be misread. That's what happened here.
Not ego versus ego.
But established identity versus forming identity. The dress simply magnified it. Now here's the part that truly seals the story. A few years later, at another family wedding, this time a cousin's, the roles reversed. The bride, once insecure, now confident, wore something bold, unexpected,
Statement-making.
and guess who defended her when a distant relative whispered that it was a bit much?
Yes.
The mother-in-law. She smiled and said, "She looks exactly as she should. Radiant. No jealousy. No shadow. Just solidarity." That's maturity. When you no longer interpret brightness as theft. So, what was the real lesson? Not tone yourself down. Not be less. Not walk on eggshells. It was this. Confidence is not a problem. Unspoken insecurity is. And when neither side names it, it turns into symbolism. A dress becomes a statement. A compliment becomes a threat. A spotlight becomes a battlefield. And here's my final take, my friends. She wasn't the villain. She wasn't the victim either. She was a woman adjusting to a shifting role. And the bride wasn't fragile. She was transitioning too. Two women recalibrating their space around the same man. That's delicate work. So let me ask you one last time. If you shine naturally, should you dim yourself? Or should the world learn not to squint? And if you feel overshadowed, do you silence the other person? Or strengthen your own light?
Comment Bilot?
I want real answers. Like, if you appreciate drama that actually teaches something. Share this with someone navigating complicated family dynamics. Because the most elegant conflicts are never about fabric. They're about identity. And my friends, identity always leaves a trace.